The sun rose over the golden grasslands. The rhino stood silently. Its skin was thick and strong. Its eyes scanned the horizon. The air was cool. The ground trembled under its heavy steps. The rhino walked towards the watering hole. Birds flew overhead. The wind carried the scent of fresh grass. The rhino lowered its head to drink. Ripples spread across the water. A shadow moved near the trees. The rhino stopped drinking. Its ears twitched. The silence grew heavy. The rhino sniffed the air. Danger was close. From the bushes came a low growl. The rhino turned. Its horn pointed forward. The grass swayed as something approached. The rhino stood firm. The wind blew dust across the plain. The rhino did not move. Its heart beat steady. The shadow circled slowly. The rhino waited. Suddenly the bushes burst open. The rhino charged. The ground shook. The horn sliced the air. A cry echoed through the grasslands. The rhino stopped near the fallen grass. The danger was gone. The rhino breathed heavily. Sweat rolled down its skin. The air smelled of dust and earth. The rhino turned back to the watering hole. The sun was higher now. The heat wrapped around the land. The rhino drank again. The water cooled its throat. In the distance, clouds began to gather. Thunder rumbled softly. The rhino raised its head. Rain was coming. The grass would soon grow thick and green. The rhino walked slowly across the plain. Each step was strong. The wind sang through the tall grass. The rhino disappeared into the horizon. The land was quiet again. The night fell over the grasslands. The moon lit the rhino's path. The stars shimmered above. A cool breeze touched the dry earth. The rhino's shadow stretched long across the plain. Owls called from the trees. The rhino moved slowly under the silver light. Its horn glistened. Each step pressed deep into the soil. The sound of distant water whispered in the dark. The rhino approached a hidden stream. Fireflies floated above the surface. The water glowed under the moon. The rhino drank deeply. The night carried a scent of wet grass. A sudden rustle broke the calm. The rhino froze. Its ears turned sharply. The darkness hid shapes between the trees. The rhino's breath was slow and steady. The wind shifted. The shapes moved closer. Eyes glowed faintly in the shadows. The rhino stepped forward. The ground felt alive under its feet. The shapes scattered at the sound of the rhino's snort. Fear spread through the bushes. The rhino stood tall. The moon painted its body in silver and black. A soft rain began to fall. Drops rolled over the rhino's thick skin. The earth drank the water greedily. The air was filled with the smell of fresh life. The rhino walked through the wet grass. Each step crushed the waterlogged soil. Frogs sang from hidden places. Lightning flashed across the sky. Thunder rolled over the land. The rhino lifted its head. Rain poured harder. The horn gleamed with water. The grass danced wildly in the wind. The rhino found shelter under an old tree. The storm roared above. Yet the rhino stood calm. The night was fierce, but the heart was unshaken. The rain became its song. The dawn broke slowly over the wet grasslands. The rhino stepped out from under the tree. Mist curled around its legs. The world smelled new. The air was cool and clear. Birds began to sing. The rhino moved through the fog. Its heavy body cut through the morning haze. The sun glowed like gold through the clouds. The land awoke. The rhino reached a wide open field. Drops of water clung to every blade of grass. The ground shimmered. The rhino grazed slowly. The taste was sweet. Far away a roar echoed. The rhino paused. The sound rolled over the hills. The wind shifted. The air carried a wild energy. The rhino began to walk towards the sound. Its horn pointed forward. The earth crunched under its weight. Shadows moved across the hills. A herd of antelope burst into view. They ran past the rhino. Their eyes were wide. Their hooves struck the earth in panic. The rhino kept moving. The grass ahead swayed violently. The rhino stepped closer. A great beast emerged from the shadows. The land fell silent. The rhino's breath grew heavy. The beast lowered its head. The rhino lowered its own. The space between them shrank. The wind held its breath. The grass waited. With a sudden surge, the rhino charged. The ground shook with every step. The horn sliced forward. The clash sent a roar into the sky. The beast fell back into the tall grass. The rhino stood victorious. Its chest rose and fell. The sun broke fully through the clouds. The land belonged to the rhino again. The rhino walked across the endless plain. The wind carried the scent of rain. Clouds gathered in the far distance. The land seemed to hold a secret. The sun began to sink low. Shadows stretched long over the earth. The rhino's horn caught the last light of day. The air turned cooler. The sky burned with orange and red. As darkness spread, the rhino found a small clearing. The ground was soft. A gentle stream flowed nearby. The rhino lowered itself to rest. The night wrapped around it like a blanket. The stars shone bright above. A shooting star crossed the sky. The rhino's breathing was slow and deep. The sound of crickets filled the air. The world felt peaceful. But in the distance, a deep rumble began. The earth trembled faintly. The rhino opened its eyes. The sound grew louder. The night seemed to hold its breath. From beyond the hills came a line of shapes. Their silhouettes were dark against the moonlight. They moved with purpose. The rhino rose to its feet. The ground pulsed with each step they took. The wind shifted suddenly. The scent of the intruders filled the air. The rhino's muscles tensed. Its horn lowered slightly. The grass shivered under the weight of the moment. The shapes drew closer. The air was thick with tension. The rhino did not move. The moonlight lit the curve of its horn. The stillness was louder than any sound. Without warning, the night erupted. The rhino charged forward. The ground exploded under its hooves. The force shook the air. The silence shattered. When the dust settled, the plain was quiet again. The intruders were gone. The rhino stood tall in the moonlight. The night reclaimed its calm. The land belonged to the wild once more. The morning sun rose with a soft glow. The rhino moved slowly through the tall grass. The earth was still damp from the night. The wind carried the smell of new flowers. A flock of birds burst into the sky. Their wings cut through the morning light. The rhino stopped to watch them. The world felt alive. Every sound carried meaning. The rhino reached a valley filled with mist. The air was cool against its skin. Shadows of trees stood tall on both sides. The sound of water echoed faintly. A narrow stream ran through the valley. The rhino stepped into the water. Ripples spread in every direction. Fish darted away beneath the surface. The cold water soothed its legs. The valley opened into a hidden meadow. Flowers of every color swayed in the wind. The rhino stood in the middle. The scent was sweet. The grass was soft. In the distance, thunder growled again. Dark clouds rolled over the horizon. The rhino raised its head. The storm was moving fast. The land braced itself. The wind roared through the grass. The trees bent low. Lightning flashed across the sky. The rhino moved toward the shelter of a rocky cliff. The air was electric, poured down in heavy sheets. The rhino stood under the cliff. Water streamed down the rocks. The storm's voice filled the world. The ground turned to mud. A sudden crack of lightning struck a nearby tree. The air split with sound. The rhino flinched but did not run. Its eyes glowed with calm strength. The storm raged on. When the storm finally passed, the land shimmered with water. The rhino stepped out into the open. The air smelled of rain and life. The grasslands stretched endlessly ahead. The journey continued.